Thank you, everyone, for joining us for Show Me the Money with the amazing Saz Ross, an event on financial planning as a creative who runs a business. I would like to personally, first off, introduce myself. I am Renee Taylor, one of the co-founder of Operation Arts Foundation, and I would like to thank you for joining us for our first event in the event series that we are having this year for GEWARTS, which stands for Global Entrepreneurship Week Arts. Global Entrepreneurship Week is an international event crossing over 200 countries, 20,000 partners, 40,000 activities, and 10 million people. So this is a giant event. This event was created to make it easier for anyone, anywhere to start a business. But generally, they focus more towards tech businesses, your standard brick and mortar businesses, maybe a different type of products. But we realized that, artists and being an artist is a business too. So we created GEWARTS. We wanted to make sure that creatives had the same opportunity to succeed and thrive and had the same resources to thrive as every other business. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my business partner, my co-founder, my right brain, Miss China May, to explain a bit about Operation Arts.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us today. We started our organization in 2018 and officially became a nonprofit in 2020. Our mission is to develop the creative economy, and our programming consists of local art gallery staging, professional development events, public art, marketing support, resource sharing, opportunity cultivation, career training, and internships. And if you want to know any more about our organization, you can go to operationarts.com. And without further ado, I want to introduce Ms. Saz Ross, the host of this workshop.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, China and Renee. It's an honor to be here and see you and work with you. And just a little bit of background in case you don't know me. I'm an illustrator. I'm from New York. I moved here about 10 years ago to Baltimore. And since then, I've made my home. I have a husband, a small, tiny human named Valerie, and I have a business called Saz Factory, Inc. It's an illustration and creative workshop business. So I'm happy you're here today. I'm going to show you how to create multiple streams of income. I'm going to answer any questions that you have regarding financial planning. And I'm hopefully going to create some sort of confidence here today about your ability as an artist and an educator, because essentially when we show our work, we are teaching people about vulnerability, personal meaning, and we're really opening up a door here for other people to see what creativity really is all about. So I'm excited to know you and get to know you today. So please, for the chat, this is going to be really interactive. If I ask you a question, feel free to use the chat or raise your hand. I want us to have juicy conversations here today. I want to knock down some walls. And I also want everyone to be aware of the fact that your participation throughout the week is essential. And by Friday, we are giving away a ton of goodies. So your ability to raise your hand, get engaged, draw, answer questions is essential because it will lead to a gigantic, beautiful prize at the end of the week. Your participation alone will give you brand auditing from the beautiful Jess Langley. She is a huge muralist in Baltimore City. You'll be getting free goodies and consultations from Spaghetti Kiss, a huge comic book creator in Baltimore, music consulting, and so much more free, beautiful goodies by the end of this week. Today, I want us to all get started and learn about each other. So in the chat right now, tell me, what kind of a creative are you? Introduce yourself, sum yourself up in one sentence. Tell me what you create with, and tell me who is your audience. And you might still be figuring that out, but who are the types of people that buy your work? That has a lot to do with what we're going to be talking about today. And you'll be finding the right places for selling by knowing your audience. So put in the chat, what is your creative outlet? What have you been using as a selling tool? Whether that be visual art, music, sculpture, dance, creative writing, so many art forms. I want to know what I'm working with. So I'll give you a second to answer that in the chat while I pull up our presentation for the day. Let's get started. Let's get started.
And while everybody is getting their information in the chat, I would like to say a big old thank you to MSAC, the Maryland State Art Council, for helping to make this a reality. Because without them, we would not have, without Saz, we would not have been able to do this, put this on for everybody. So thank you.
Thank you, Maryland State Arts Council. Maybe we'll send this over to them and they'll get the love.
Yep. And I'm also going to put the link to the rest of the week's events in the chat for everybody. So be sure to check that out.
All right, cool. We got it. We got an answer in the chat. Love to see that. Feel free to just put in as much information as you can about you and your artistry. And even your audience, if you know who your audience is, that's awesome. It's the type of places you sell or the types of people you sell to, or your core demographic. Okay, we have some answers in the chat. That's beautiful. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. All right, and Renee, would you be able to answer or at least read the first answer in the chat?
Sure thing. I can read the answer. Would you like to have Miss Kelsey speak on it?
Yeah, Kelsey, would you like to take the stage?
Yeah,
I'm fine with taking the stage.
I love it. All right.
My name is Kelsey Joyce. I'm a sculptor among many other mediums, but my main one is making 3D sculptures using paper mache, metal wire, aluminum foil, duct tape, a bunch of other stuff. I use like recycled eyeballs and things like that, but I like to paper mache the outside of the sculpture once I'm done forming it and then paint it really colorfully using acrylic paint. But yeah, I'm just really excited to learn and be in the presence of other artists.
Thank you, Kelsey. That's awesome. Yeah. I am so excited to see your sculptures. So yeah, I want everyone to keep aware of who is in your surroundings here today. This is our artist network. We're building a network today in this workshop. So Kelsey, we're so excited that you're here and I can't wait to learn more about what you do.
All right. Next we have Ijoma. I apologize if I said that wrong. But would you like to speak on yourself, Ijoma?
Yes. Hi. Yeah, it's Ijoma. You said it right. Yeah. So I think you're good. I'm an author and screenwriter, and I like to consider myself a multimedia artist because I also do like animations and painting. So yeah, I think my first thing though, where I realized I could have an audience for like my creative work is the book I wrote. So that's why I say young adults, but I am interested in learning how to, I guess, financially plan for the future. But yeah, and I also studied mechanical engineering, so I guess that's also something niche. Okay.
Joma, snaps. You've got a lot of wonderful talents. So I think finding what your niche is going to be so great. And it seems like writing is at the forefront. You've written a book that's incredible. Anything that you have for sale, we're going to be doing a self-promotion day Wednesday. So get your link ready, get your website polished, anything that you need for Wednesday, because we are going to do a self-promotion day. Anybody else before we dive into the lecture portion of the workshop?
Would you like me to run through the people down here and call them out, or you just want people to volunteer?
Let's do one more volunteer so that we have enough time for everything else.
Sounds good.
I could do it. I'm just not great at the text, the chatting. I'm skilled in a lot of arenas, but technology has not always been my strong suit.
No worries.
My name is Daniel Collins, and I'm also part of Operation Arts, China and Renee. So I have what's been fun for me in that in that journey is sort of just rediscovering my inner artist, because I've grew up doing theater, writing, a lot of different art forms, but I went into, I've become a eco contractor. I'm a licensed general contractor and a plumber. And my passion is really building, my art form is like functional art. So I end up building structures that are both aesthetic and functional at the same time, and that are linked to green technology, that sort of thing.
Wow.
So that's my current, but then one of the fun things was, once I started with Operation Arts, China was like, what type of art do you do? And I was like, I don't know that I really do that much art these days. But then, you know, sort of looking at it from different lenses, I realized that I do a lot of what I call functional art.
Beautiful. Daniel, that's incredible. My intrigue is on fire right now. I cannot see what you created, and hopefully, possibly with some of this information today, you can look at maybe even using your outlet and your talent of creating as a way to build income. And you know, I'm hoping that you'll gain some beautiful tools today to add to your business and grow your business. So the first thing I'm going to dive into today is getting grants for creative work. I think there's so much information out there that people just don't know about. Any person in here who is not in Maryland, be mindful that the first part of this will be Maryland type grants, but also be mindful of the fact that every state does have grant support for artists. So yeah, anybody who is not a Marylander here, not to fear, because every state does have forms of support similar to what you're going to see in part one. Part two, we're going to talk about selling in brick and mortar stores, what techniques can be used to actually gain those partnerships and secure the partnership. And then three, we're going to talk about live events and in-person networking, as well as knowing what types of events to look for as a creative. All right, let's dive in. So Maryland State Arts Council has funded today. And a lot of you who are creatives and have multiple disciplines such as visual arts, creative writing, sculpture, theater, there are so many different art forms under the umbrella of MSAC. And something really special about MSAC is the fact that they have a roster artist list. Now, is anyone in this room, and I'll have Renee look at who's waving a hand, familiar with the roster artist list for Maryland State Arts Council? Is anyone familiar with that here?
If you're familiar, raise your hand.
If you're familiar, raise your hand.
Feature.
I want to see what you already know. And if nobody knows,
We got Mr. Phoenix rose a hand.
Okay, tell me about it.
Forgive me, I'm a analog artist in the digital world.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'm actually on the Maryland Arts Council artist roster.
Lovely. I love that. So can you give us a little insight about what your definition of the MSAC roster artist is, or description, I should say, of what it is?
Oh, gee. Well, I just know what it does for me. I usually get referrals for public art projects in the DMV.
Yes. Yep. So essentially what happens is you get put on this list. It automatically gives you credibility in the county with schools, institutions, any government funded organization like schools or detention centers. It could be community centers, nonprofit organizations. These are the people that they tend to serve. And being on this list provides you with up to $7,500 per engagement. Now, something to be mindful, because this is a government state-run council. Once you apply for that $7,500, you won't see that money until about 3 months later. So if you want to talk about financial planning and getting on this list, which is a 2-part application process, I'll walk you through that in a second. It is something to keep in mind. So what are some things that we can do if we plan to be a full-time roster artist? There are so many other types of ways that we can gain income. And just through MSAC, we can do that with multiple types of grants. Maryland State Department of Ed, MSDE, is also another organization in Maryland that funds artist work, especially the work of art educators. So even if you don't view yourself as an educator, thinking about art education is going to be a viable source of thinking about income, how I can level up my business and add another layer to it that can create more money. So the 3 types of grants I'm going to break down. MSDE has an artist in education or arts in education grant, the creativity grant, which is open to the public. You don't have to be a roster artist for the creativity grant. And the $4,000 can go towards any community project. MSAC tends to lean towards supporting artists who are impacting the community in a positive light. So if you're just doing $4,000 of a duct tape installation that's going to sit inside your home or your backyard, that won't be, the possibility of that being funded won't be as high as thinking about an installation that would be seen near a school, or thinking about a way that your art can actually impact the community. I know someone mentioned they have something sustainable about their business. I think that was Daniel with something thinking green about what they're doing in regards to creating artwork. So that's something. The newest grant that has actually not been released yet, this is new information for Maryland State Arts Council, is called the Artist Grant. So they are releasing this in 2023. It's $6,000 for just being a working, breathing, living artist in the state of Maryland. So that's just something to keep on your radar. And today, for everybody who's here, we'll be collecting information, emails. I know we already have for people that have signed up formally, and we'll be able to give you that information as it surfaces. So those are the 3 in particular. Now, I know one of you are already on the roster artist list, but something that could help you with the process of becoming more familiar with it and why, it's so essential is creating workshops with personal meeting by using your art form. Now, these are 2 things that you may have not linked together, but thinking about the why behind what you're doing is super important with coming up with a workshop. The why can stem from anything. It could stem from pain. It could stem from really why you're creating art to begin with. Where is that desire coming from? And how can that correlate to the greater good? How can that be something personable and relatable to the greater good? So usually what I like to think about to get inspiration is different points of my life where I've experienced loss. And that loss is the catalyst to greater ideas for workshop, different types of workshops that I do with kids and adults. So that's something I want you to think of in the back of your mind as I talk about the artist list. I'm going to pause really quick, and in the chat, can anyone explain to me a little bit about their experience as an artist and educator? Has anyone had experience creating workshops? What's something that you use as a central theme? Who here has created an arts and education moment in their community or school? Maybe some of us are teachers here.
I'm currently still in school, but what am I trying to say? I did a workshop for my student club, geared it was a workshop geared towards my book, which was about sort of STEM and art. So it was a STEM club, and I was trying to get people to see the art in STEM. And yeah, that's how I geared the workshop and sort of finding the personal meaning of all these different scientific concepts, how could they mean something for our lives.
Beautiful. So you had experience with using education as a way to share your work and your art in general as a creative and combine those worlds. Now, you said you put the arts in STEM, which is STEAM. So you created a STEAM-based educational experience for some, your community or whatever group that you were serving. And that's something to keep in mind here as far as being the MSAC roster artist, is thinking about the kinds of people in the community you could serve just by talking about your art. It's just that simple. So what will happen with the process, which is going to be something I will link to the Padlet. You might be thinking, what's a Padlet? It's kind of like an online Blackboard. We're going to have sort of like a classroom, an online classroom here with the people that come to this. You'll get all the links to anything that I'm discussing or talking about in this workshop. So you'll see that in the chat to come. But there is a two-step process to becoming a roster artist. The first being just filling out an application, explaining what you do, sharing what you do as an artist, your medium, and how you've been able to serve the community in the past with your art form. Once the first part of your application is approved, the second part is a workshop that an MSAC representative is able to come see you virtually or in person. I actually did a virtual workshop. It was at the tail end of COVID, or I should say, I know COVID's still here in many fashions, but it was towards sort of the end of the heat of the pandemic. And I did a virtual workshop with about 10 people. And it was great because I had very intimate moments with each person in the workshop. MSAC loves hiring people that are able to get to artists one-on-one in breakouts, whether that be a breakout room on Zoom, or if you're in person, getting one-on-one with everybody who has attended your workshop. So making sure that your part two is successful is all about creating that impactful experience that allows the participants to engage with one another and allows you to engage with them on a really deep level. So we're talking about personal experiences, surfacing parts of people's lives that maybe they haven't discussed out loud before. So you'll be seeing at the part two session of this, how to create a workshop that is money worthy, that people want to pay for, essentially a form of art therapy that's going to unearth this creative sense of self in anyone that you reach. All right, so that we have the part one and two of the application. And then the third bullet, how is your work able to support the greater good? We've already kind of touched upon this, but who does your work serve? Are we thinking troubled youth? Are we thinking higher education? Is it 55 plus communities? These are things that you want to think about. And I asked that question in the beginning, who is your audience? And I definitely want you to think about, maybe there are more groups of people that can really benefit from what you have to say, more than just troubled youth. Maybe you can think about even putting your work in a corporate setting. Corporate workshops always pay more than educational institutions. So really targeting and selling and branding yourself as someone that can really serve the greater good is great. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you always have that niche to come back to. You can serve specific groups and larger groups just by how you market yourself. I say putting on a suit as a person that does doodles and gets messy all the time. I could also put on my suit jacket and take my work and transform it into a corporate light just by using different themes, missions, visions, core value statements from that organization and branching it to my work. Because believe it or not, there are so many parallels that exist between business world, education world, government funded groups and groups that exist in corporate America. There are so many links between them that a lot of people aren't cognizant of. And I want to bring that to light today, because you create a workshop that you think is worth selling, whether it be on Thinkific, Kajabi, these are just two platforms that you can create modules for a learning experience, or it be with MSAC. You can create those experiences and think about where you could find points that might be valuable to various different groups. So you could market that to more than one niche. All right, more about MSAC. So I already discussed the types of populations that MSAC serves. That's the top right little window right there. And you can see there are so many different types of groups that I did not even say aloud. Talking with people with emotional or physical disabilities. Typically, we have a lot of ESOL students that fall under this bracket, people experiencing housing instability. Mind you, if you do put it in an application with MSAC, you need to make sure that you have a UEI, a unique entity ID number, or a Duns and Bradstreet number to really make your case and get that final stamp of approval, which is something that you might not be aware of. With every nonprofit and government-funded organization, there is a number, a special number that comes with that organization. I know one of you who's a roster artist who's been able to apply probably knows what I'm talking about. That special number is something that you want to make sure that you achieve, that you get, and put that in your grant application, because that way the MSAC, people who are actually judging your application, knows that this group that you are supporting is an actual group. It's not something made up. So yeah, every nonprofit, every educational institution has a unique entity ID or a UEI or a Duns and Bradstreet number. And that's something that you'll learn after part 1 of your application getting approved. The second type of engagement, or I should say the second type of element to this little graph thing that I have here on the bottom half, are educational engagements. So you might be wondering, how can I teach, or what places can I teach this audience that you speak of, or this audience that I have? And it can be field trips, lectures, anything that you see here on the bottom left here, a visiting performance. You could have a one-day visit at a school using your art form, creating art with those students, and that would be completely fine as a way to get money from MSAC. That could be something that you apply for. And a virtual program. It could be something that you have you've created with one of the groups that you see above, and it's an engagement that you could just create out of thin air. And as long as you have, like I said, the unique identity ID and the Duns and Bradstreet numbers, you can create that, get $7,500 for an engagement like that. And it will be something that you can plan over the course of time. Of course, thinking about that waiting period is essential, because yeah, you might be fronting money in a lot of these situations without having the actual funds come in first. You might be fronting the money first. So does anyone have questions so far as to who MSAC serves, or what kinds of environments are suitable for these types of workshops? Any MSAC questions so far? Waiting periods?
I did have a question. You had mentioned detention centers too. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I've noticed, that especially with the eco building or vocational training, even though it's not necessarily artistic, a lot of times that's one of the things I've heard a huge call for. That's why I've been conceptualizing building some, like, basically video content for youth or youth at risk or in youth detention type things. That's basically one of the problems being, or that's been identified, is that there's not a lot of vocational training, but at the same time, I view it as an art form too, because carpentry is art, plumbing is art, painting houses is an art, even though it's not as beautiful as a painting done by my colleagues.
No worries. Yeah, there are a lot of different art forms in that. And yeah, information itself is always something that is a great sell. But typically what you see here in these experiences, you want to create something that's hands-on for the audience. So whether that be something that they create, usually something that they create that stems from your art form. So if you're niching yourself as theater artist or the environmentalist artist, you want to make sure that they are creating some type of experience where they can make and share with the group. So
right.
In case, yep, the information, that's one component. The creativity and actually creating something tangible that they can hold and experience with the senses, that's something else that is a second entity to this. So those two things together come together, and they create like an unstoppable force of a workshop. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess as an example, I have one of my crazy creations here. It's an upcycled thing. I'm not sure if you can see it or whatever, but it's like made from cans. Like, I've got a bunch of crazy animals. As Kelsey was saying, I've got a bunch of like crazy animals and creations made around here that are all from like recycled natural building, materials, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's so cool. I think, yeah, if you were to create something and scale scale that to whatever audience you're serving, whether that be the younger groups, the older groups, like a troubled youth. You can think about where those themes lie within that environmental mindset, and apply it to the group that you're serving. So I think that would be incredibly cool for people to do in a workshop. So think about that. Think about those links between the group that you want to serve and the people that you would reach out to, because that's a whole other part of MSAC, is finding the group yourself and building that link. Eric, I have a question for you because you are a roster artist. Can you tell me the type of groups that you've been able to serve as a roster artist? Okay. All right, I'll give Eric a second. It's good to hear from other roster artists about this experience.
Sorry, love. I missed the question.
No, you're totally fine. What kind of groups have you been able to serve as a roster artist?
I've been only focused on public art. I haven't done any. Actually, a lot of this information you're sharing is kind of new to me.
I'm so happy.
Yeah, I've been strictly in the public art arena, and that's what I've been doing for the past 10 years. So sculptures, but I haven't done any engagement with the public other than through my projects.
Ah, very good. Okay, so this is useful. I know the creativity grant is only $4,000, but I mean, you can apply endlessly. I know that they have a certain amount of funding. You want to apply at the beginning of the school year towards, I want to say, late summer, early fall, because that funding sometimes runs out. So if you have 10 places ready to go that you've done research on from January to, let's say, midsummer, you're in a pretty position. If you want to take notes on what I just said, thinking about what groups you can work with before the school year starts. This way you apply ahead of time, you get in as many applications as possible, and that helps your chances with getting money, already setting up the next year of everything that you're doing, and it organizes everything that you have as far as planning as an artist. So once you know you have those engagements booked, doing this ahead of time helps you fill in the gaps later on. You know that those engagements are booked throughout the year. You submitted 10 at once. That month is hot and juicy with work and writing, but you put in the blood, sweat, and tears right up front. You're sitting pretty for the rest of next year, because you put in that money ahead of time before everyone else. Because now, late November, you wouldn't think so, but up till the end of next school year, which is, I want to say, like early June, that money is running out. So have those engagements booked and stacked. Get those letters of approval. The letter of approval is anything from the administrator, whoever the director is at that nonprofit, that school, that detention center that you want to work with. Get a letter of approval from them with a signature, their UEI and DUNS number, and then you can just fill out that application and you're good to go. You could even create the formatting the same way. I do that the same way. I copy, paste, and change out words, and I still get the money.
Yeah.
And if you're really curious about, or cautious about putting in that application and that time and knowing, I don't know if I'm going to get this money, there is a person at MSAC who is there to help you. And her name, you want to write this down, her name is Lizzie Morales. Elizabeth Morales is the head of the Arts and Education Grant at MSAC. This woman is more than willing to help you. She is new in this position and eager to help artists get money. So just to let you know, if you set up a meeting with her ahead of time, and she can guide you on how to be an arts and education roster artist, you are money. But like I said, you want to do the research, put in the time, and really look into your network, take a deep look at your network to see what kinds of groups you want to work with. I have an education background. I was in the education system teaching in Baltimore City and in Howard County and in Baltimore County for 6 or 7 years. Most of my engagements come from my history. So really dig up your bridges, dig up all the bridges. Don't burn any from past experiences, because they could be someone willing to serve your art. It could be a group, it could be a group, it could be somewhere that you wound up. I helped a homeless population, the Youth Empowered Society in Baltimore. I helped them when I was working for a nonprofit called Leaders of Tomorrow Youth Center. Shout out to LTYC. I worked with them, and now as a roster artist, I can go back, I can get the $7,500, and that organization qualifies because they're a nonprofit. So think about the places you've worked. These are the places that you could re-enter as an artist, get money easily, more money than the creativity grant, more money than any of the other grants that MSAC is serving right now. And you're really sitting pretty for most of the year. That's something interesting. All right. And if you have any questions about that, please make sure to put that into the chat. Renee will be stopping me, pausing me so I can answer those questions. So those are the 3 grants that I've discussed so far. And the next part of this is going to be about brick and mortar. If you have any questions regarding MSAC and those grants or tricks and tips on becoming a roster artist, please email me, please text me. This experience is not like a lot of other workshops. You get me as a coach for a week. That means I'm answering your questions. I am taking the time to know you, and I really just want to guide and help you as much as I possibly can. So utilize me. All right, here we go. Brick and mortar. I'm going to have you answer a question in the chat. That question is, who here has ever had artwork sold in a physical store? It could be a gallery. Who here has had artwork in a store before? Put that into the chat. And we'll give it a second.
And I'll be taking over for Renee until the end. She'll be joining us again.
Excellent. Who here has had art in a store? This is going to be some serious, mind-blowing stuff that I'm going to share with you.
We have one participant. Her name's Chichi, or
Okay. Would you like
Emily?
the mic? I'm going to give them the floor.
All right.
And what was the name?
Chichi.
Chichi? If we're saying that incorrectly, take yourself off mute. We would like for that person to speak up and just give us a little bit more information about their selling experiences in stores.
Oh, yes, I have. I've actually sold my work at Anacostia Art Center. So yeah.
What did you sell there?
Let me see. Sorry, this is like awkward with the videos.
No worries, no worries.
Put it on. Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Hi. Hey. Okay, yeah. So I've actually sold my work at Anacostia Art Center at a shop that has 2 different locations in DC and in Baltimore called Nubian Human Boutique.
Beautiful.
And they sell artwork and they sell like stationery for artists. And I've also sold my work somewhere else, but I just cannot remember right now. But yeah.
That is so cool. If you want to drop a link in there so that we can check out the boutique, maybe even support your work there, please do so.
Yeah, sure.
So something else that I want to bring to light here, selling in brick and mortar is an art in itself. I have an artist group called the Print Pact, and that's something I'm going to address in the 3rd bullet point. But essentially what happens is with my artist collective, you can apply. And if your application gets accepted, you can be invited to sell in our 20+ stores that we've procured partnerships with in Baltimore. Granted, depending on the kind of work that you sell, that might be contingent upon what the seller is looking for, because let me tell you, I've had a whole spectrum of artists. I had this awesome burlesque artist, but the burlesque photography and art, it wasn't able to be sold in as many places because the type of store didn't fit that aesthetic. So just be mindful of the fact that this artist collective that I'm sharing with you, Some of the central themes of artworks that I'm talking about that would be acceptable for the application would be anything from prints to stickers, cards, jewelry, anything 2D really under 11 by 14 inches is something that you can think about as far as the application goes. But yeah, it gets you physically in a store. I don't know what other organization in Baltimore does that, but it's something I started with my business partner, Colin Cessna. He is someone that I work with to make sure artists gain visibility in stores. So the first part of this I'm going to talk to you about is approaching managers. This could be also gallery owners. I don't know, Chi-Chi, about your experience with galleries or that space and place in particular, but a lot of them tend to cut the artist off. It's like a 50-50 take or a 60-40 take. Sometimes certain galleries don't give you as much as you deserve. And that's why it's nice to think about selling in environments that you wouldn't typically think of first. I'm talking, if you're a visual artist, cafes. I'm thinking boutiques. I'm thinking, hair studios, hair salons. Well, people are waiting to get their hair done. They're looking at stuff, around the hair salon. I'm talking about skate shops. If you're a sticker artist, putting your stickers in a skate shop to have, stickers put on boards and helmets. So thinking outside of the box here and thinking in places that really could benefit you and put your work in the right light with the right kind of customer base and the right audience. And then we're also what is it?
Of what we did too. We had actually shown you before with our alternative art staging, because we make galleries in alternative places like the co-working spaces, restaurants, and stuff like that. And yeah, like thinking about your artwork in other realms.
All right. I like that. So Operation Arts, if you haven't already known about the work that they do to get your work in all different types of places, that's something to definitely look into. We'll have that information for you in Padlet, which is going to be shown in part 2. So yeah, how to get your work in a store. Now, this is my formula. This formula is sacred to me. You want to screenshot this. This is going to be essential and so useful for getting your work physically in a store. The first part of my ingredient list for baking this beautiful cake called a partnership is calling the store you want to work with. It's that simple to start off with, just calling them, right? I'm giving you some examples: local cafe, bookstore, boutique, right? You call them. You ask to speak with a manager or a store owner. Why is that important? You don't want to talk to a person behind the register. You don't want to you want to, talk with them and spend too much time with them. They're not going to be able to help you as much as that manager will. Now, sometimes there's a manager, but then there's also a store owner. Manager is just as important. You want to find out when that manager is physically in the store. How do you do that? You ask them and say, hey, I want to come in and spend 1 minute just sharing some work with you. They're going to be like, oh, I want you to email me. Email is a dead end. These store owners, boutique, all these people do not answer email. Flat out, they are being spammed like every other place, day and night. They're not going to have time to respond to you. If they only want you to email, that is a follow-up situation that you schedule on your Google Calendar. I don't know about you, but I always forget to follow up if it is not on my Google Calendar. So if it's something that they want you to follow up with, I give it like a week and a half, and then I touch base with them again. So yeah, email is a dead end. Once you find the time the manager is in there, and this is something that I like to pose. I say that I'm an artist collective. We help artists in Baltimore get in stores. I'm here to help and see if I can support your business by giving a cut of the sales to you and the artist. And it's a symbiotic relationship. It's a win-win. And typically when you go in there, you want to pitch consignment, because 10 out of 10, they're not going to wholesale from you if they don't even know your product. They don't even know your product is going to sell in their store. So you offer consignment always up front with the hope that your partnership will evolve into wholesale, where they purchase from you in bulk. And that's something I'll put more detail in part 2. But so procuring a time to actually meet physically in person, get their email so that you can Google invite them. They know when you're coming, right? You could even text them if they want that type of relationship with you. But once you get their email, once you're physically in a store and you're talking with someone face to face, they gain a sense of trust from you. So get a time to actually put your work together, making sure that your prices and your artist information, QR code, whatever that is on the back. Take note that sometimes places want a 1099 from you. That's fine. Other places want cash. Other places will let you put a QR code with your Venmo on it. Every place is something different. But just be mindful of the fact that you need to let that manager know that you are there to support their business as well. Typically, we like to ask for a 10 to 40% take from the store, and then the rest goes to the artist. So I say the partnership is worthwhile if it's 50% or more. 50 can be kind of rough, but if it's in a high traffic area, it's, you know, that relationship is worth it. So yeah, think about that once you try to set up that partnership. This stream of income is so great because with enough stores, if you're in enough stores, it prevents you from having to do a pop-up. And it's a more organic way of reaching people because it isn't an ad that you've paid for that's popping up on their phone involuntarily. That relationship you've built with your audience is absolutely authentic. They have approached your art due to pure curiosity and interest, right? No one had shoved them in their, nothing was shoved in their face. They created a connection, an authentic, organic connection with your work in a store. And that is something that you cannot pay for with advertising. That is the best type of advertising that you can think of. Any questions with this formula so far? Give a minute for people to think of any questions.
Excuse me, I don't have a question, but just to add to what you're saying, also what I've learned in the past, it's also good to kind of, before even approaching the store or business owner, is kind of look at the environment and see if your work fits there or not. It's good to kind of go to places and look for places where you feel your work is going to be in addition to the environment. So it makes it an easy sell when you talk to the owner.
Yes, I love that. Oh my gosh. Do your research. You're absolutely right. You need to make sure that you're selling in the right places. If you think that your punk rock work is going to sell in a store, like a yogurt, frozen yogurt cafe with bunnies all over the wall, no, you need to make sure that you're doing your research. I remember in the very beginning of this venture, I was hitting up every single coffee shop and I didn't do my research. Some of them had art already on the wall and a lot of it was digitally manipulated art. It was like more, I don't want to say like, it was more like block style artwork. It was more cubist style. And my work is definitely not within that category. I'm a pen and ink illustrator. My work is very detail oriented. I use a lot of hatching, cross hatching, and stippling with pen. Very little digital manipulation. So that store in particular was like, no, your work doesn't fit our aesthetic. Be mindful of where you're pitching to, and then that will help guide you. If you decide to join my print pact, we do reach a very, very wide variety of stores. So hopefully within that alliance that we create, we can find a place for you. All right, moving forward, wholesale versus consignment. Oh, a question?
A comment question. What if you're long distance? I mean, I know you're talking basically in Maryland, but what if you were looking for a store that's out of state, like New York or in the West Coast, and you can't go physically to the manager, and because you said emails are dead end.
I recommend wholesale for those types of relationships. Unless you have someone there who can physically collect money for you on a monthly basis and really touch base on inventory for you, it is a very risky venture to do that with consignment. If it is another state, yes, it must be wholesale. At selling your work in bulk upfront for a one cost, they pay for shipping, and then there is no risk with that. But yeah, a lot of the print pact artists that I have, it's local. It's a local venture. They do a drop off at a physical location because they don't want to pay for shipping. I understand that. I'm helping all types of artists, meeting them where they are, and that's totally fine. But I'm helping them get into local places with the hope that that builds relationships with different, people in the store, with other people who visit the store. And then hopefully it gives them enough credibility to approach out-of-state owners, sellers, managers about wholesale with that resume of places that they've already sold to. So this is helping from the bottom.
Yeah, one other thing I want to ask you.
Yeah.
Did you say a 50-50, as long as you get 50% or more is best?
Yep, 50% or more. I say it's a highway robbery if they're giving you 40 or less.
And also, do you, I think you said, do you have a list of stores in Maryland that you?
I do. It's what I do is I don't share my list, but I do have an application that you can sign up for. And depending on the type of work that you have, we can see if it's a good fit, if there are stores that would be able to sell your work. And if so, we set up a partnership with you. I believe we take only about a 10% cut. We are not liable for anything lost or stolen. And if anything, it's great because it prevents you from hustling around. We update the inventory for you. We pay, we give you, payment. We provide payment system for you monthly. And you just sit back, relax. And the only thing you really need to do is prepare your prints, your artwork, your sculptures, your jewelry, whatever that is. And, drop it off when the due date is. So yeah, it's a pretty nice situation. It gives you that credibility, puts your work in a new place, a new space. And it really, I'm going to be honest, it's the best way to advertise.
Is it pretty lucrative to do just locally, just stores locally? I mean, can you make pretty good money that way?
You do make pretty good money. You can't depend on one store. That's why I like the idea of, obviously spreading your wings to as many places as possible. But yeah, depending on what you sell, it could be originals, it could be prints, it does add up pretty nicely. And some of those sales that people have in store, maybe they're not selling, they're not picking up the sale in store, but it's leading them to your website and you're getting a sale that way,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I say it's always worth it. It's always worth it. It could be the amount of your sales during the month with our print pact could be equated to a pop-up where you're spending a whole entire day hoping, wishing, praying that someone's going to come up to your art tent and buy something. So yeah, this is, I would say, it could be the equivalent depending on how many places we have for you. Typically, the most places that we have are for artists that are illustrators, because right now most of our partnerships are conducive to two-dimensional artworks.
Ijoma does have her hand up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question and comment. So my book, I was hybrid published, so it wasn't like a big traditional publisher backing me to like put my books out there in the bookstore. So I did do the process of calling and emailing, and it kept on like draining my energy because I felt like there was nothing I was gaining out of it. So like I guess from that, like what should I do next? Should I just like look to like probably selling my book at like marketplaces and like little arts festivals if I feel like I'm not getting the results out of like the emailing and the calling, or like see artist collectives like yours that possibly could help?
Oh, we could definitely help you because we do have a partnership with Charm City Books. So I can tell you right now, yes, we could help you. We are in the process of gaining other partnerships with places that also sells books. So yes, if you fill out the form is going to be on the Padlet, which is something I'm going to transition to shortly. You'll be able to see the form there, fill it out, and we tend to get back to you hopefully within the next week or two to find a place and space for you. And yeah, so this form is attached to the Padlet. We're going to the time to create. What I'm going to do is give us a few minutes to collect a piece of paper, pens, anything that you have on hand. I've had people in workshops actually use like a napkin, but no pencil. Pencils are not invited today. Mistakes are embraced, not erased. We are making sure that we own all of our marks today. So while you are getting ready, putting your artist station in motion, I'm going to add another camera to our workshop so you can see what I'm doing as I'm doing it. And yeah, Renee, if we can put music on just for a few minutes, we're going to be in
Gotcha.
transition mode right now. Any questions that you have from part one, from the lecture about Print Pact, MSAC, all those things, we're going to address that during this little tiny break, and then maybe even after if we have time.
All right.
All right.
Good. Music's coming back in.
Yeah, Renee.
Yes.
Oh, are we asking Renee? But how do we get on your list that she was talking about?
Padlet. I'm gonna share the Padlet with you guys after this mini break. We're gonna take 1 to 2 minutes to collect pens and paper, and I'm currently putting the Padlet link into the chat.
Okay.
And I'll explain how to use it and all that fun stuff. But yeah, we'll put the music on just for a minute or two, and we'll be back in a second once everyone has their art stuff ready. All right, let's cut the music. We're gonna dive in part 2. Here we go. Part 2, here it comes. Get those pens ready, get your paper ready. I'm super excited to dive into part 2. Now, something that I did mention in part 1, something about live events. Yeah, I briefly touched upon places and spaces, but essentially with live events, you want to be really, really particular. And I know I'm coming back to creating in just a second, but I want to cover this so that you all know. Live events, if they're worth your while or not, it really depends on the space and place, because truly and honestly, depending on what you sell and the type of market it is, it could be no event is too small. I know people that do pop-ups at Auto Bar, which is an event space in Baltimore. Typically they play music there, and it's not the biggest arena, it's not the convention center, but they're a comic book artist. We have a comic book artist coming tomorrow. He could even tell you about selling at Auto Bar. Even though it's not the biggest, it is lucrative because his audience is there. So knowing your audience, I'm going to say this a bunch of times, is super important. And depending on where you are, depending on the foot traffic, these are all factors that are going to be so essential to the success of you being there to begin with. So my work is very tattoo styled. It's black and white. You can see that little tree in the back there.
Mhm.
Yeah, my work does do well at tattoo convention type places because of that. So really take a hard look at your work, and Eventbrite has is an incredible resource for looking up events that you can apply to, because typically they post the event at the same time as Call for Artists goes. So Eventbrite, Facebook events, these are places that are really easy to locate events. And typically, once you do that one event planners share contact and email lists with each other. So you will get invites from other people because of that one event. So keep in mind about live events. If you have questions about that, I told you I'm your coach for the week. So if you are having trouble looking for places, we are going to spend time together this week, and I'll be able to help guide you to the right places for your artwork. So keep that in mind. All right, today we're going to create. I put up a second camera. It says S. Ross Bird's Eye View. So if you double click that, you'll be able to see what I have going on here. I'm also going to put myself in present mode for just a second so that you can see what's going on. And I'm going to share screen to do that. I also will share the Padlet with you. That's something I kept talking about, this live Blackboard. Each day of every workshop this week, you'll have columns featuring the artist and all the links below it. It'll have their website, and you'll see today I've put all the links that I've mentioned already in this workshop, like the MSAC roster applications here. An art form is here. I have the whole presentation for today that's here, how to apply for the creativity grant. So yeah, I have all of those beautiful print packed application form. I know some of you are interested in that. And then if I pitch wholesale to out-of-state businesses, I give them my Saz Factory catalog. That's something that you can look here. It has a QR code. Sometimes I mail this to them, and that creates interest in having my work sold in their place. And that is a higher chance for wholesale, creating that catalog. Easy to do on Canva. And then, of course, I have a shop code. You get % off of any item in my shop just for attending this session, as well as an application for free coaching. The application I'm going to pose as well by the end of the week. And if only a select amount of people will be given the chance to have one-on-one coaching with me, the coaching will give them immediate gold status to my print pack partnerships, the biggest discounts to the online store, and the other tangible resources that I have that I give my other coaching clients all for free, just for being here. So take advantage of those forms and everything that I've put in today's column. You can also post your work today in Padlet. If you look at the bottom of each column, there's a plus sign. Give that plus sign a little click. And what ends up happening is this window pops up. I'll give you a little look-see at that. You can type in the subject. You can put my artwork. Put your name in here so you get the credit. I'm taking a close look at who's doing the work this week so that they get, you earn the most stuff. I want to give you, your time is worth something, and you made that choice to be here. So I want to give you something for it. So yeah, put your name in here. Make sure you say it's you. And then you can put your work here two different ways. You can click the camera. Boom, there's the camera. It's starting up. It's a photo booth moment. You can have a picture with you and your art. If that's too cringy, you can just kind of like move the camera of your screen. And then another option is to do an upload. That's the left icon. It's green, and there's an up arrow with a little document behind it. And you can pick a document on your computer to upload that way. And then once you're done with uploading, you hit publish, and boom, it shows up in the column. I'm discarding this because it's nothing that I've uploaded.
I do want to just add that you will have to actually make an account in order to add to this. And we also have little printable guides that go with each day. So please enjoy all the free resources.
Yeah, thank you, China, for mentioning that. Yep, you can connect your Google account or whatever account that you have to this easily. You don't have to pay for anything to sign up. So yeah, just be mindful of that. It's pretty great. All right, so let's get into part 2 of creation.
I also spotlighted, so it's going to be you and your artwork.
Oh, beautiful. Okay,
Yep.
You can spotlight that. I'm also going to go into present mode just real quick to talk about my workshop. This is the workshop that I market to Maryland State Department of Ed. This is my moneymaker of a workshop. I connected this to financial planning because creative workshops is one of the most lucrative parts of my business. So thinking about your business from an arts and education standpoint, not only is it essential, but really think about that as a source of income, as a stream, of heavy flowing stream, because information, people are so eager, are so on the edge of their seat when it comes to buying courses online. You want to create courses if you know something really valuable as an artist, because sharing that information is worth something. I don't know how many of you were art students. I went to Towson. Yes, I loved it. But for my friends who were not in the education program, but in programs specifically for something studio based, like painting, sculpture, dance, theater, in none of those programs did they share how to make a sustainable business with your art form. It was really just studio courses. So think about all the information that you have to share that you've learned so far in your career. That is worth something. So this workshop that I'm going to share with you right now, this is something that's worth so much to me. I've been able to share this with I would say thousands of people at this point, and I hope you gain something from it as an artist.
Saz, before you get started, Chi has their hand up. I just wanted to note if you had a chance to answer their question yet.
Of course. Chi, what's going on?
Hi, hey. So I was just wondering, is there any way we could see like your setup too as well, or no? Like, I love the angle that you have. Is that part of this or no? Just
yeah. You mean the setup is like what I'm doing with my my
your
workshop
camera?
setup?
Yeah, like the other screen that we're seeing. I think it would be cool to see like how you put this together. If that's
totally. When I'm done with the workshop, just give me a little heads up, and I'll share with you. I usually put my iPad on a stand, and I buy one of those like those standing ring lights.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's during the day, I'm making sure the light source is in front of me. But for all the workshops I do, I make sure that my background has nothing, because usually I'll put my artwork behind it, and it's easier to do the screen that way. I really want to invest in a green screen so that my artwork isn't showing up in my eyes and my teeth. But like eventually that'll come into play. But yeah, I did buy one of those freestanding ring lights that goes in front of me. As you know, it is at night, the sun is going down, and you can still see me very nicely with that ring light. And then I also use my iPad above to help with that bird's eye view.
Oh,
and
okay.
I do have a second light source that hits this part of the paper as well. I don't have it on because the ring light is on my strongest setting. But yeah, there are a lot of different things that can help with your setup, and lighting is probably one of the most essential pieces of that. But thank you, Chi, for saying something, because I definitely want to share more about this setup, because that creates success with all your creative.
Yes, photography, all of it. Yes, thank you so much.
Big time, here to help. I am your coach for the week, so thank you for asking. So the first thing I'm going to ask you, Renee or China, make sure that that chat is being acknowledged just for this in particular. Lost. What comes to mind when you think about that word? I want to hear your feelings about this word, lost. What does it mean to you? Are you thinking about a specific moment in time? Lost.
You going to put that in the chat, or?
Yeah, put that in the chat, or if you just want to speak out loud, I'm okay with that as well. Lost. How do you interpret this word?
Kelsey says the color blue.
Color blue, which could be interpreted as sadness. Okay.
Emily, not having a sense of direction.
Good, not having a sense of direction.
Not knowing where you're going.
Not knowing where you're going. I love that answer.
It's bewildered.
Bewildered. So I'm getting sadness, confusion, a
Dark.
feeling of no direction. I'm getting negative, a lot of negative. Does anyone else have a different definition?
Actually, that's. Oh, yeah. Oh, go ahead. I'll let someone else if they're.
Okay.
Oh, hi. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Coley Tingala. When sometimes when I use the term lost, it's also in a positive. I mean, I'm lost in joy in my creating which my forte is theater, film, and performing comedy. And I'm lost in it where time just slips by. And it's a wonderful, joyous feeling.
Nice.
Coley, my heart's smiling right now. Thank you for sharing that. But typically our mind doesn't go there first, right? We have to think about that for quite a few minutes before coming to the realization of maybe it's a good thing. Over time with my art form, I've been able to reinvent this word. And I'll share with you why in just a minute, but I've been able to look at this word in a different light by creating an acronym out of it, because for some reason, every time I feel lost, I tend to go to this really dark place, like most people do. But in that dark place, I find so much light because I am able to lean on my creative outlet in those moments. And I tend to make the most powerful, impactful work with this feeling. So I decided to reinvent it and redefine it and use this acronym to pivot my mind into seeing this as creative potential versus doubt and sadness and despair. Listen to criticism, own your outlet, storytell, take creative risks. These 4 layers of lost are essential in order to be able to create something out of nothing. And that's something I want you to hold on to today, because we are going to use this 4-step formula together to make something so groundbreaking and essential and really surface parts of your mind that don't really rest in your conscious being. So today we're gonna surface a lot. You might laugh, you might cry. So hold on tight and let's go for the ride. Who can tell me what comes across your mind when you look at this piece? When you look at this artwork, what is this girl doing? What story is unfolding in front of you? What is happening here? Who can interpret this story for me?
The first thing that comes to my mind, which is so fascinating, and it's interesting that because I've seen this beautiful work before, but when I first saw Lost, in my mind, I actually thought of basically of the woods, but also similarly to our friend who just spoke, it wasn't an unpleasant, it wasn't scary, it was almost the because if you're found, you know where you are, you're in your comfort zone. Being lost puts you in a new zone of what this immediately struck me as is actually discovery. Even though there's a lot of elements that have a sort of an anxiety or uncomfortability to it, like getting out of your comfort zone. There's also this sort of coming from the edge of the woods into a clearing, and there's something there and a light to illuminate. To me, it speaks of like discovery, the power of discovery that comes from being lost.
Oh my gosh, what poetry. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. I couldn't agree more, right? When we're lost, we're actually found. There's a moment of discovery here. I think sometimes initially when we look at this, we it feels a little eerie, but then we take a closer look and it becomes something entirely different. Does anyone else want to share an emotion or feeling or story that comes about when looking at this artwork?
I think I first thought of the little Red Riding Hood. Yeah, I don't know why, but she's just exploring off into a journey. But even though it looks very gloomy, it's just like maybe she'll find something.
Okay. So you feel like a sense of hope from this. I like that. Okay. Well, this piece right here is called Lost. It was an artwork that I made at the time of my mother's passing. And I have to say, this is probably one of the most known pieces of artworks in my collection. And it is due to the fact that I had to dig up a part of myself that I did feel uncomfortable about And that was the fact that my mother passed away in front of me. I held her hand until her last pulse. And her absence left me with this like insurmountable void. And I didn't feel like anything could fill it except art at the time. I became addicted to my pen. And this piece is 18 by 24 inches. And it is something, every little inch of this piece has a part of me and my mother inside of it. Because at this moment, when I decided to draw this little house in the woods, I actually found artwork of my mother's hidden beneath the staircase of my basement in New York. It was in this wooden box. And inside the wooden box, there were all of these beautiful artworks, forests and trees and houses. Ironic because we lived on a train track outside of New York City. But in this little box was an oasis of nature and architecture, these little houses. And I decided to think about her in this moment and how I could share a piece of her with the world and what this box means to me in this dark moment. There's light in knowing that she had a creative outlet of her own. And even though she was too afraid to share that with the world, she hid it in a box. I brought this work to light for her. And I like to think a little piece of her is in everything I create. So here's me knocking down a wall for you today. And I hope that inspires you to be more vulnerable with your work, and especially this session, but in all the work that you create, because there is something beautiful in that feeling of loss. So we think of loss creating a void, but it makes a space for creativity. And I think it's easy to see this in a lot of notable artists' work. And pain, the most beautiful things come from pain. And I think the last few years have given people so much to think about, and it's truly made people rethink their priorities of life. Coming off of a pandemic, having to maybe rethink or restart a business, start from scratch, losing work, losing money, losing family members. There has been so much loss. And through this loss, it's hard for us to see any sort of hope or feeling of resilience, because it brings us to this low point and we wonder, can we ever dig ourselves out of it? And I know we have so many creatives here. The fact that you have an outlet is already giving you a step on the ladder out of this place and space. So I'm just telling you right now that whatever you're creating is precious, because it is giving you that ability to overcome. So we are going to storytell today with the 5 senses. And what I want you to do is use your paper, and I'm going to step out of screen sharing. I want you to use the paper in front of you like a sketchbook page, like you're sharing your deepest, darkest secrets. And I want you to look at my bird's eye view camera. If you want to pin it, if you want to double click it, you can do that. Essentially, what you're going to do here is use words and story prompts. And the first prompt that I'm going to give you is, I hear ... Now, with each prompt, here's what you're responsible for. You're going to think about a moment in time where you felt that sense of loss. It could have been with a person, a job. It could be, feeling like you were, feeling a sense of loss about who you were as a person, right? It could be any of those things, but I want you to think about that memory in particular. If you need to close your eyes, if you need to transport yourself back to that moment, do it. And I want you to think about, what were you hearing at that time? Was it a scream? Was it laughter? Was it a cry? Is your moment of loss actually a happy moment? Or does it cripple you? Think about what do you hear in that moment? Is it a bird? Is it a door slamming? What do you hear? Use descriptive language. Take us there. Take us there right now. I want you to think about that one memory. And I want you to spill it onto a page. I want you to open the lid, pour it out on this paper, and tell me, what do you hear? What are you hearing in this moment? As I move on to the prompts, don't feel the pressure to transition if you're still writing about the previous sense. I hear. Next one. I touch. I touch. What's in your hand? Is it hard? Is it soft? What's the texture? What do you touch? What do you touch? Is it an object? Is it a person? Is it a metaphor? Are you touching someone's heart or their mind? What do you touch? I see. What are you looking at? What colors do you see? Is it a person? Is it a place? Is it in nature? Is it in a building? Is it in your room? Is it in the room you're sitting in right now? Is it a room in someone's house? Is it in a public place? What do you see? I taste. Is it something sweet or sour? Is it a metaphor? Do you taste defeat? Do you taste victory? What does it feel like on your tongue? Is it spicy? Is it sweat? What do you taste? What do you taste? Does that flavor bring you back to a moment in time? Does it bring you back to sadness? Does it bring you back to hope? Do you taste? I smell. Are you smelling a season? Is it autumn, spring, summer air? What do you smell? How does that smell make you feel? Is it cringe? The person? Is it their perfume or cologne? What do you smell? Is it cooking? Is it food? Is it nothing? Is it just the air or the wind? What do you smell? And since we went through the 5 senses, I'm going to add a layer to this. I'm going to write the last one is I feel. I like adding I feel or thinking about something internally. Or you said I touch, right? That's something tangible. But now this is something internal. This is an emotion. What emotion do you feel? At the end of it all, what do you feel? And the reason why I love using the 5 senses in workshops is because there's nothing that can transport a person more into a space than these senses. And when you describe your work, going back to the senses can really give a person the proper feelings in order to experience your work, the way that your work should be experienced. The 5 senses can do that for you. I really want you to look over all of the senses right now, add descriptive language. Give us a sense of what's going on and what's happening in this moment. Now, the second part of this is going to be a drawing element. Now, you can draw it next to the words. Like I said, it could be sketchbook style. It doesn't have to be. But essentially, what you do is you want to think of one subject, one image. Using pen, you want to think of that one piece of symbolism that comes to mind that really makes you think about this piece of writing. If you're talking about a loved one, maybe it's drawing their bow tie. I remember this moment, I had someone in a workshop talk about a popsicle that they would eat with their grandfather. And he dropped the popsicle in his time of death, and she drew the popsicle. And thinking about that one subject, yeah, it's triggering, but confronting it is, it adds a whole new layer of resilience, and it adds a whole new layer of creativity to what you have going on with your writing here. And because it's personal, it holds so much meaning, and being able to take it a step further and share that it creates incredible connections, unbreakable connections to the people around you. So just be mindful of that if you are fearful of sharing this. We are breaking down walls today. Now, what I'm going to do is I'll walk you through the senses. And for each sense, I want you to think about a line. It could be hatching. It could be parallel lines that move in one direction. It could be cross hatching. Parallel lines moving, overlapping on top of each other, moving in 2 directions. It could be stippling, dots, big and small. It could be scales, curved lines. And it doesn't have to be objective. This can be completely abstract. You're going to use all the elements of the story that you created here, this poem, and you're going to think about what lines and marks embody this story. It doesn't have to be that popsicle, like I was telling you about. It doesn't have to be a bow tie or something that is recognizable to the human eye. No, this could be a series of squiggles, marks, and lines that makes you think about what you just wrote. And you've touched upon all these senses, and you've used different marks to tell that story. So what we're going to do right now, I'm going to walk you through it one more time. You're going to use a piece of paper. It could be the same page as your words. It could be a new paper. That is entirely up to you. We will share this in a breakout session after, and then we'll choose some of you to share it with the entire group. Okay? Let's go back to the top. I hear. What do you hear? My story, it's the whistling of the wind. The wind is moving so steadily, curving upward and across. Feel the wind. I touch. In this moment, I'm touching this box outside. This box is opening up. It's got sharp edges and it's old. It has history. I see, what do I see? I see flowers, tiny houses, big houses, trees, long trees with green flowers on the ends. Even though I don't have color, I can still bring this to life. All coming out of this box. The most beautiful thing I've made? Maybe not. Maybe this is just the seed for a greater artwork, for a better idea, for a greater series based on this memory. This memory that might connect me to other people, that might make me build a bridge between others that I didn't think would ever exist because of our differences. But here it is. I see. I taste autumn. I taste all the leaves. And imagine what they taste like. With every crunch I hear, with every time I take a step on a leaf, I feel like I can taste it. I can taste autumn. Taste autumn. I smell old wood. That's what I smell. I smell history. I smell my past, my mother's past. Smell her lead pencils and that old gummy eraser that she left behind years and years ago. I smell that here. I feel her work. I feel her art in my hands. I feel like we're sharing this moment together. She's watching me open in this box. She led me to this box, to this moment, and she's sharing that moment with me. This moment was supposed to happen because she was scared to show me a part of herself. She was scared of being vulnerable, but I'm not scared. I'm going to draw this moment with you right now. I'm not scared. All right. If you're not done with your drawing, it's okay. You can feel free to put down your pen just for the moment. You will be in breakout groups. What I'm going to do is make sure that we have, let's see, we have 13 people here. I would like at least 2 to 3 to a group, and you're going to share the written work and drawing with that person, and with the hope that it will allow you to feel enough confidence to share that on the larger stage with everyone here. Renee and China, feel free to start putting people into groups and breakouts. You'll be there momentarily. All right. I'm sorry if I cut off any really powerful discussions. I hope that you continue those discussions and are able to connect with whoever was in your breakout by giving them your information, and you'll have time to do that. I hope to see you guys throughout the week here. But if you're only able to make today, I totally understand. On a personal level, what did this mean to some of you how did this make you feel? And if you can speak about the connection you had in your group chat or your breakout, that would be great.
If you want to speak, just go ahead and put your hand up and I'll call in people in order. You can just put it in the chat and I'll read it out for you. Okay, no one's raised their hand yet, so I can. Oh no, we have a hand. We have a hand. Oh, Gioma.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I enjoyed sort of writing out the different senses for just a simple word. I feel like I would imagine using this more, like, because I write poetry, so I felt like this was very helpful to like help me be more poetic of like what is going on in the scene that I'm trying to create. So yeah, I enjoyed getting in touch with my emotions through this workshop.
And Joma, thank you for sharing that. And do you mind telling us about a connection you felt in your breakout?
Yeah, so I'm not sure. Should I share what someone shared? Or
no, you don't have to do that. But did you feel like hearing and seeing that work made your work feel even more powerful?
Yeah, I do. And I think we like shared some stories, and I in some sort of sense I could relate to the feeling of loss with how other people shared it.
Thank you. Thank you for being brave and for being one of the first people to share, which is not easy. Sharing art in general, it feels like taking shots in the dark, and we constantly put ourselves out there without knowing the result. And I appreciate you. I really I respect you for taking the dive in. Would any other artists here like to share?
Kelsey, would you like to share your awesome work that you shared with the group?
Yes, I will share. I was trying to chicken out, but thank you, Renee.
Oh, way to go. Come on, let's do it. Let's see it.
So it took me down a weird subconscious like memory path because it kept jumping around in different time periods of my life. So it really went from the far past to the current present, literally today. Yeah, it made me think about my dad a lot, who, contention, not the best relationship, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll read you my little poem and then show you my beautiful illustration.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes.
I hear screaming and yelling. I am touching the couch and feeling the tan threads. I see rain and dead deer lining the road. I taste spaghetti and meatballs fresh from the pot. I smell the marinara sauce. I can't wait to eat it. But I feel nothingness, nervingness, and unsure all at the same time. Okay. And so my boss hit a deer. So he's not here today. He was traveling back and he was supposed to be here, but he just collided with a poor deer. So I drew a picture of a deer as a zombie with like marinara sauce coming out of its wounds and a meatball tail. And I'm trying to put spaghetti and meatballs in its antlers.
Oh my gosh, that is wild.
Yeah, so it's pretty cute.
Look at the detail on that.
Oh
my gosh, Kelsey.
So it's really fun because I feel like I usually do that. I try to make things funny. I'm always like, oh.
Yeah, put a humorous twist on it. I love that. Yeah, let me tell you, this session is meant for laughing and crying. I mean, if anything, I love the fact that you did that because, we tend to think immediately of like, a person that we've lost, but there are moments in our lives and opportunities that have been lost. And like you said, he couldn't make it here tonight. So I think it's very appropriate. And I honor you and appreciate the fact that you shared that piece. And now sometimes with our art, if we're like, this looks like garbage, we're like, why do I have to share this? But the fact that you created something outstanding in that short amount of time, I give you so much credit. Even if you made something disgusting, I still want to see it. I still respect it and honor it. And I love the fact that you chose that. So thank you, Kelsey. Let's give Ijoma, Kelsey snaps and claps. Love what I'm seeing. So
Excellent.
something else I want to mention before we leave, we only have a few minutes left. I want to make sure that your work has made its way to Padlet. So I'm going to give you a minute or two to take a picture of your paper. Remember, you don't have to put yourself in it, but if you click on the Padlet link, I'll put that again into the chat. You can click the plus sign at the bottom of today's column. You'll see my face. You'll see it says Monday, and put your work in there. Like I said, all these little brownie points add up by the end of the week, and you get something pretty magnificent by the end for coming. Like we said, we honor your time, we respect your time, and I'm really appreciative of the fact that you decided to come today and share this moment with all of us. So yeah, take a minute to do that. And if anyone would like to put a reflection testimonial into the chat, I think now is the greatest time. If you want to put your testimonial or feeling reflection into the column of the Padlet, you can do that as well. And hopefully with the last few minutes, if you want to express any feelings that you have into the chat about how maybe this could transfer to your art form, we would love to see that. I know other artists would love to see that. And any closing remarks can also be made by China or Renee. I'll pass the mic to them.
All righty. Well, I would just like to say thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Thank you, Saz, for this wonderful workshop. Wasn't expecting to feel all these feelings at the end of it, but thank you for the education. Thank you for the permission to be vulnerable, and for helping everybody engage. China, would you like to?
Oh yeah, I think I was going to share, and then I think if you want to read Emily's thing in the chat as well. So I actually got lost in Saz's words, and all I could think about was like drawing the words that you were saying. So like I drew an ear for I hear, and then kind of like a mandala of body parts, if you will. So and then I did a hand around the ear, and then an eye around the hand. So this is, oops, let's see what I came up with so far. So
I see the eye.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's beautiful to see all of the different outcomes of this. And like I was saying, this is one of the most lucrative parts of my business, is sharing my artwork through these creative workshops. So just keep that in mind and see how you can transfer your art form into a setting like this, and see all the benefit it brings, not only to your own artwork, but to the people around you and how it impacts the community. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And if you are interested in the Print Pact, if you're interested in getting artist grants, please feel free to check out my column. And if there's anything today, like live events, something that you really wanted to talk more about, please make sure to contact me. I'm your creative coach for the week. And once again, thank you to Operation Arts for having me be your weekly host. Thank you to Renee and China. And thank you for everyone here just for showing up and being yourself and being vulnerable. So thank you. Come back. We got a whole week full of fun. Tomorrow we
got a whole week.
Yeah.
The link to the Eventbrite page is in the chat, and I'll put it back in there again. If you haven't signed up, there's something for every genre.
Yep. And Friday we will be posting a virtual goodie bag. And that will be the ultimate gift from every artist that we feature here. We'll be giving something away.
Okay.
Stay tuned for that.
With that, I'm going to bring back in our closing music. What's up?
Do you want to read Emily's real quick?
I do not see Emily's message, so if you would like to read it, you are most definitely welcome.
I don't see it either.
It's in the chat. I'll read it. So it said that she was also confused by the prompt, and she mainly did only lines while thinking of body, lost in how my body is now different and the challenges that come with it. I hear silence, emptiness, internal outbursts. I touch my soft, fluffy blankets because it is comforting and makes me feel less alone. I see nothing, just blank stares, seeing nearly nothing. I taste nothing, but my mouth is dry. I smell nothing. I feel crippled, trapped, and hopeless.
Wow. Emily's still here, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh
her
my
Zoom
God.
wasn't working, so she couldn't share. So I was trying to help share that for her.
Oh my gosh. Emily, thank you for submitting that work. I know sometimes I get a lot of questions and confusion at the beginning of this. You're like, what is this prompt doing? Why is this? But you followed through amazing in an amazing way. Even feeling a little bit lost about it in the beginning, and what you created was so beautiful and open. I was transported by your words. So thank you for sharing that. And please, please, I know your audio is being funky, but put that into the column for today's
Put it in the Padlet.
Yeah, put it in the Padlet. We are using this Padlet this week. We're taking advantage of it.
All righty.
And we'll
with
put
that,
the
thank you,
music.
everybody.
Yep.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Thanks.